June 12, 1944. Normandy, France. Mist clung to the bocage, drifting between hedgerows that sliced the morning light into thin, silver beams. A Churchill tank crouched behind a low embankment, its dark hull gleaming faintly with dew. Inside, the turret hummed, a slow mechanical groan barely audible over the whisper of the wind and distant artillery. The crew tensed, eyes scanning the gray horizon for the unmistakable flash of a Panther's gun. Every second stretched. Outside, a young mechanic crouched beside the tank, tools in hand, inspecting the turret gear. Rust lined the edges, stubborn and flaking, yet he worked methodically, unaware that the corrosion he cursed would soon become an unexpected advantage. Inside the tank, the commander called out angles, and the gunner anticipated movement, the turret swinging faster than any man expected. The iron teeth, worn and weathered, responded with uncanny speed, tracing invisible paths across the horizon. Across the fields, German armor prowled, calculating, unaware that a single overlooked gear would transform the slow, ponderous Churchill into a precision instrument of sudden, deadly reaction. In that suspended moment, the line between machine, man, and battlefield fate blurred, and history began to turn in unexpected ways. The Churchill tank had earned its reputation as a fortress on tracks. By 1944, it was a heavily armored behemoth, its thick, sloped armor designed to shrug off anti-tank rounds that would pierce lesser vehicles. Yet this protection came at a cost. The tank was slow, ponderous, and its turret rotation, limited by mechanical gears and weight, was lethargic compared to the nimble German Panthers that prowled Normandy. Crews knew that every turn of the turret could take precious seconds, moments during which a Panther could line up its lethal 75mm gun and alter the fate of the battlefield. Designers had anticipated speed as secondary to survivability, assuming the Churchill would advance deliberately, its presence discouraging attack through sheer resilience rather than agility. Normandy's terrain magnified these limitations. Fields divided by deep hedgerows created choke points where tanks could be funneled into predictable paths. Muddy lanes slowed even the heaviest tracked vehicles, while high embankments and ditches restricted line of sight. Panthers, with superior speed and sloped armor, exploited these conditions, darting along open lanes, striking from unexpected angles. For Allied crews, every advance through the bocage demanded vigilance and foresight. The slightest delay in turret rotation or target acquisition could mean a direct hit from a German gun before the Churchill could respond. Allied armored units faced a complex calculus. Operational plans accounted for coordination between infantry, artillery, and tank crews, but no plan could fully mitigate the moment-to-moment uncertainty of combat. Each engagement required split-second decisions, the interpretation of shadow and motion, and precise control of machinery designed for durability rather than speed. The Churchill's turret mechanism, a combination of heavy gears, shafts, and bearings, had been engineered to withstand punishment, not to rotate swiftly. Training manuals advised crews to anticipate threats, adjust elevation gradually, and coordinate with spotters. Yet real engagements rarely mirrored theory. Mechanical maintenance was constant and unforgiving. Field workshops operated under relentless pressure, repairing tracks, engines, and turrets with limited parts. Minor wear, rust, or misalignment could slow a turret, force a crew to adapt, or in some cases, render a gun temporarily ineffective. Crews learned to compensate through brute force, hand cranks, or improvisation. Every tank had a personality shaped by its quirks. Some would respond faster after long operation, others stuttered when gears resisted. These mechanical variances, unnoticed by higher command, could tip the balance between survival and destruction when facing a Panther in a narrow lane. In this environment, small, seemingly insignificant details could have outsized consequences. A misaligned gear, a worn bearing, a corroded joint could change the timing of a turret rotation just enough to allow an angle of fire otherwise impossible for the slow Churchill. Tank commanders often relied on instinct, learned over countless hours of training and minor skirmishes, to exploit these quirks. The performance of the vehicle became inseparable from the understanding of its operators. A skilled crew could push limits beyond design, compensating for expected mechanical sluggishness. German armored tactics further heightened the stakes. Panthers were designed for mobility and precision, capable of engaging targets at longer ranges while outpacing the Churchill. Their crews were trained to exploit known weaknesses: slow turret traverse, predictable angles of approach, and hesitation under fire. Forward intelligence and reconnaissance often guided their strikes, yet the chaotic conditions of bocage combat introduced unpredictability. Every time a Churchill's turret moved more swiftly than expected, a Panther's advantage was diminished, even if only momentarily. This tension between design, environment, and human adaptation created a theater where ingenuity mattered as much as firepower. Mechanics and crews were often unsung players in the outcome of engagements. While official doctrine emphasized armor, coordination, and firepower, it was the subtle interplay of machine wear, improvisation, and human understanding that determined who survived the first deadly seconds of combat. The battlefield in Normandy was as much a contest of anticipation and adaptation as it was of armor thickness or gun caliber. By June 1944, Churchill crews were acutely aware that survival depended on exploiting every advantage. Every nuance of gear resistance, every irregularity in turret rotation, and every second of delay mattered. This understanding set the stage for an unusual discovery, one unremarkable, rusted turret gear that would unexpectedly give a Churchill tank a rotation speed rivaling that of the Panther. A mechanical flaw, unnoticed by engineers and cursed by mechanics, was about to rewrite expectations in a small corner of the Normandy battlefield. Crew routines were relentless. Each day began before dawn, the chill of Normandy mornings seeping through canvas and steel. Drivers checked tracks and engines, gunners calibrated sights, loaders cleaned and oiled mechanisms. Turret gears, prone to wear and rust, received particular attention. Crews would report stiffness, unusual resistance, or abnormal noises, often attributing them to weather or heavy use. Mechanics labored under intense pressure, replacing worn parts when spares were available, improvising when they were not. In these conditions, small defects became part of the tank's character, a reluctant partner in every maneuver. Training emphasized procedure. Crews drilled in synchronization, each man learning precise routines for loading, aiming, and firing. Turret rotation was critical. Even a slight delay could result in a missed opportunity to neutralize approaching German armor. Commanders often reminded gunners that speed was secondary to accuracy. Yet, in practice, instinct frequently surpassed instruction. A crew's familiarity with their vehicle, their knowledge of its quirks, and the nuanced feel of its gears often determined effectiveness more than any manual. Mechanics, too, carried unspoken responsibility. They were expected to maintain machines designed to endure punishment, yet minor irregularities often went unnoticed or untreated due to operational constraints. In one forward strip, a young mechanic inspected a Churchill's turret gear. Rust flaked along the teeth, corrosion stubborn but not catastrophic. He tightened what he could, replaced damaged pins, and cursed the immovable sections, unaware that the very imperfection he despised would later create an unplanned advantage. Such moments were common, fleeting, seemingly insignificant, but occasionally they reshaped events in ways no manual predicted. The German threat loomed constantly. Panthers and Panzer IVs prowled open lanes and cleared fields, their engines low and threatening, scanning for slow targets. Their crews understood Churchill limitations: sluggish turret traverse, ponderous hull movement, delayed firing response. Standard Allied tactics emphasized positioning, overlapping fields of fire, and using terrain for cover. Yet even the best planning could be undone by a sudden tactical anomaly: a turret rotating faster than expected, a shell finding its mark before the enemy anticipated a response. In Normandy's hedgerows and narrow lanes, these fractions of a second could determine survival. Operational experience emphasized anticipation. Tank commanders instructed crews to watch for engine hum, shadow, and silhouette. They trained for movement patterns, estimating enemy speed and likely approach angles. Turret rotation, normally a limiting factor, became a point of constant calculation. A single well-timed adjustment could allow a gunner to intercept a Panther's flank, even as the enemy crew assumed a slow, deliberate response. Mechanics' work on the turret, while often routine, directly influenced these outcomes. The interplay between human skill and mechanical condition was subtle but decisive. Crews adapted to imperfections, learning to exploit stiffness or resistance. Some tanks responded sluggishly, forcing crews to preempt movements. Others, unexpectedly agile due to wear or irregularities, offered new tactical possibilities. These nuances were rarely documented formally but were passed from veteran to newcomer, becoming part of the collective memory of a unit. Survival depended on recognizing them. By mid-1944, Churchill crews had internalized these lessons. Each engagement reinforced the importance of awareness, anticipation, and adaptation. Every scratch, dent, or corrosion mark held meaning. The Normandy battlefield, with its bocage, ditches, and sunken lanes, demanded continuous adjustment. The conditions created an environment where small mechanical anomalies could produce outsized effects. What might have been a minor maintenance oversight became a variable with potential consequences for life and death. Amid this atmosphere of constant vigilance, the young mechanic's rusted turret gear went largely unnoticed. To the untrained eye, it was a flaw, a liability. Yet in combination with the crew's skill, the understanding of terrain, and the mechanical tolerances of the Churchill, it set the stage for an unexpected advantage. A slow, ponderous tank was about to gain an edge over a faster, more agile Panther. The convergence of human observation, mechanical imperfection, and battlefield pressure would soon reveal itself, demonstrating that even the smallest, most overlooked details could transform the course of combat. In this environment, preparation and improvisation became inseparable. The stage was set for the Churchill to perform beyond its design, to rotate its turret faster than any enemy expected, and to redefine the tactical possibilities in a single, decisive encounter. Normandy, 1944, was ready to test the interplay of machine, man, and chance in a way no manual could foresee. The Churchill's turret was a complex assembly of gears, shafts, bearings, and hydraulic supports. On paper, it was robust, designed to withstand battlefield punishment while providing a stable platform for the 75mm or 6-pounder gun. In practice, the weight of the armor and gun meant that rotation was laborious. Crews often described it as sluggish, a predictable limitation they had learned to accommodate. Every degree of traverse required coordinated effort, manual cranks in earlier models, powered assistance in later variants. The mechanical design prioritized durability over speed, ensuring that even under fire, the turret would not seize or jam completely. Yet even the most reliable machinery could be altered by time, environment, and neglect. Rust formed in hidden crevices, flakes lodged between teeth, and pins developed microscopic bends from constant torque. Normally, these imperfections slowed rotation further. Maintenance manuals warned against corrosion, emphasizing lubrication, cleaning, and replacement. However, in the realities of Normandy, spares were often scarce, and field workshops overworked. Mechanics did what they could, prioritizing immediate survivability over long-term precision. The young mechanic inspecting the Churchill's turret found a stubborn patch of rust along the main gear. Frustrated, he filed, tightened, and adjusted, believing he was restoring normal function. In truth, he had introduced a subtle change in resistance that would later allow the turret to accelerate under a precise load. The interaction of metal and force in the turret was delicate. A slight difference in friction could translate into noticeable speed variation. The rusted teeth, combined with the crew's handling and the applied power, created a momentary slip that let the heavy turret rotate faster than anticipated. Unlike a complete failure, this anomaly was imperceptible during routine drills. The tank's commander and gunner noticed nothing unusual, yet in the crucible of combat, the effect would be decisive. It was an unintentional innovation born from human adjustment and mechanical tolerance, a collision of variables producing unexpected advantage. The human element was crucial. The gunner, trained to anticipate enemy movement, relied on instinct and observation to time his shots. He had internalized the sluggishness of the Churchill's rotation, adjusting his timing to account for seconds lost in maneuvering the turret. When the rusted gear unexpectedly decreased resistance, the gunner's learned expectations allowed him to exploit the change immediately. It was not raw luck. It was the combination of mechanical anomaly and human adaptability. The crew's familiarity with their tank transformed a potential flaw into a tactical advantage. German Panther crews had their own calculations. Trained to engage targets at long range, they expected the Churchill to react slowly, particularly in flanking or crossfire scenarios. Their experience suggested that a stationary or slowly moving turret could be outmaneuvered if a Panther could position itself rapidly. The rusted turret gear disrupted these expectations. Suddenly, the Churchill's gun could track targets with a speed previously thought impossible, altering engagement dynamics in seconds. Enemy gunners, relying on anticipated delay, faced an unexpected window of defensive efficiency. Environmental factors amplified the effect. Normandy's hedgerows and sunken lanes created obstructed lines of sight. Panthers could appear suddenly from concealed positions, demanding rapid response. The combination of terrain, stress, and mechanical anomaly meant that the Churchill could deliver accurate fire before the Panther crew anticipated targeting opportunities. These interactions highlight how mechanical irregularities, when combined with human skill and environmental unpredictability, could generate outcomes that formal specifications and doctrine failed to predict. Observation and anticipation became magnified. The gunner, relying on cues from engine noise, shadow, and movement, synchronized his actions with the newly responsive turret. He could track faster, adjust for recoil, and deliver precise shots under conditions previously thought impossible for the heavy vehicle. The crew's mental map of likely enemy trajectories, combined with the unexpected mechanical advantage, created a synergy between man and machine. The Churchill, for all its weight and armor, moved with a nimbleness that baffled observers and forced a recalibration of German tactical assumptions. Mechanics' unintentional contribution revealed the subtle interplay between human labor and battlefield consequence. Every repair, adjustment, and oversight contributed to the tank's behavior. Rust, a normally destructive force, became an enabler, where usually a liability became an advantage. Crews, accustomed to compensating for sluggish gear, found themselves performing at a level beyond both expectation and design. This moment exemplifies how small variables in complex machinery could produce significant tactical effects when paired with skillful operation and environmental awareness. The Churchill's newfound rotation speed also influenced subsequent decision-making. Commanders began noticing faster responses, gunners reporting more precise tracking, and officers questioning previously assumed limitations. While the mechanism remained unremarkable on paper, its real-world effect reshaped engagements. Panthers, expecting a slow, ponderous opponent, were caught off guard. This subtle, mechanical anomaly allowed the Churchill to execute rapid target acquisition and firing sequences that were otherwise improbable, altering the balance of a skirmish in a single, decisive innovation. In essence, the rusted turret gear was a convergence point of chance, skill, and mechanical behavior. Alone, it was corrosion, a nuisance. In combat, it became a weapon multiplier. Combined with human anticipation, observation, and adaptability, it allowed the Churchill to operate with a speed and efficiency that surprised both crew and enemy. What was overlooked in maintenance manuals became, for a fleeting yet critical moment, a defining factor on the battlefield. The small, imperfect gear demonstrated that even the most unremarkable element of machinery could, in conjunction with human skill, reshape the outcome of combat in Normandy. The Panther was a formidable opponent. Its turret could rotate quickly, allowing rapid engagement of targets at varying distances. Allied crews had learned to respect this speed, knowing that hesitation would be punished instantly. The Churchill, by contrast, was built for resilience rather than agility. Its armor was thick, its gun powerful, but the standard rotation speed of the turret was slow. Crews calculated firing solutions based on this sluggishness, preparing for delayed traverse and compensating with early anticipation of enemy movement. In this environment, every fraction of a second mattered, and a slight mechanical deviation could dramatically alter outcomes. The rusted turret gear, unnoticed in workshops and lightly cursed by mechanics, introduced precisely that deviation. Under pressure, the worn teeth allowed a subtle slip, reducing friction at critical moments. The result was a faster, smoother rotation that the crew could exploit instinctively. Unlike experimental modifications or theoretical adjustments, this was an unplanned advantage, a product of wear and circumstance. The gunner, having internalized the expected lag of the turret, instinctively accounted for the shift, allowing him to line up targets faster than he had ever anticipated. Observation became central to success. Normandy's landscape, with its sunken lanes, hedgerows, and tree lines, made ambushes common. Panthers could appear suddenly, using cover to approach undetected. A slow turret would normally delay the response, but the Churchill, rotating more swiftly than designed, could track unexpected movement with remarkable efficiency. The crew's mental model of the vehicle's limitations was momentarily rewritten. What once required prediction and adjustment now allowed instantaneous engagement, bridging the gap between machine capability and human perception. German crews, trained in speed and precision, expected a heavy Churchill to respond slowly. They had calculated their attack runs based on standard traverse times, anticipating that a few seconds' advantage would allow them to deliver effective fire before the Allied tank could retaliate. Instead, they encountered an anomaly. The Churchill's turret, aided by the rusted gear, moved faster than expected. German gunners were forced to adjust their approach, reconsidering firing angles and timing in real time. A mechanical imperfection, invisible from outside, disrupted the carefully rehearsed tactics of experienced crews. The battlefield consequences were immediate. In one engagement, a Panther approached through a narrow lane, banking to expose its side. The Churchill's gunner, responding faster than the enemy anticipated, tracked the movement and fired. Shells struck the Panther's flank before it could complete its maneuver, forcing a retreat. The result was not only the preservation of the Allied position but also a psychological shock to both crews. German operators, accustomed to relying on the Churchill's predictable sluggishness, faced a new, unforeseen variable. The mechanical anomaly had altered the tactical landscape, demonstrating that even a single, unremarkable component could have outsized effects. The synergy of human skill and mechanical behavior was apparent in every movement. The gunner's experience, the commander's timing, and the loader's precision all meshed with the unanticipated advantage of the rusted gear. No formal design accounted for this scenario. Manuals described rotation limits, torque specifications, and maintenance schedules, but they did not account for slight, serendipitous deviations resulting from corrosion or wear. In combat, these deviations became assets, allowing the crew to operate at the edge of possibility. Terrain amplified the effect. Bocage lanes restricted maneuverability for both sides, creating scenarios where rapid targeting was essential. The Churchill, once considered sluggish, could now pivot on a dime, aligning its gun more effectively with fleeting openings. Panthers, expecting the usual delay, were caught off guard repeatedly. The rusted gear, inconspicuous and overlooked, had effectively leveled a technological disparity. A vehicle designed for survival rather than speed now matched or exceeded the rotational capabilities of its faster counterpart under specific conditions. This anomaly also influenced decision-making. Crews began to recognize subtle shifts in performance, adjusting firing sequences and preemptive tracking based on experience rather than instruction. Officers noted improved reaction times in after-action reports, though few understood the mechanical root cause. What had been dismissed as routine variability became a tactical advantage, illustrating that battlefield innovation did not always stem from deliberate design. Sometimes, it emerged from the interplay of human skill, environmental conditions, and accidental mechanical behavior. Psychological impact extended beyond the immediate engagement. German tank crews hesitated, reconsidering attack runs. Allied crews gained confidence, realizing that mastery of their machines and understanding of subtle quirks could yield unexpected power. The rusted turret gear, though minor in engineering terms, created a cascade of operational effects. It reshaped tactics, influenced engagement outcomes, and challenged assumptions about machine limitations. The Churchill's enhanced rotation also allowed for more complex defensive strategies. By tracking multiple targets rapidly, it could respond to flanking threats, support infantry, and maintain suppressive fire with greater efficiency. Where previously a Panther's speed dictated the terms of engagement, the Churchill now controlled crucial moments in skirmishes. This shift, imperceptible to anyone not intimately familiar with the mechanical anomaly, exemplified the profound impact of small variables. Ultimately, the rusted gear demonstrated that machinery and human operation are inseparable in combat. Design, where skill and improvisation converge to create an unexpected tactical advantage. The Churchill, once weighed down by armor and sluggish rotation, now possessed an agility that confounded the enemy. It was a reminder that even minor, overlooked elements, rust, wear, or imperfection, could decisively influence outcomes when combined with human insight, observation, and battlefield awareness. In Normandy, amidst mud, hedgerows, and the thunder of battle, a single, rusted gear allowed a Churchill to rotate faster than any Panther. An unremarkable mechanic, unaware of the consequence, had altered the dynamics of armored warfare in a small but meaningful corner of history. In that convergence of chance, skill, and machinery, the unpredictable could become decisive. The sun rose through a thin veil of mist on a small ridge outside Saint-Lô, Normandy. The hedgerows cast long shadows across mud-churned lanes, and the distant hum of engines marked the approach of German armor. From the top of a Churchill, the commander scanned the horizon, eyes narrowing at the telltale silhouettes of Panther tanks. The crew had anticipated this moment. Months of drills, repeated maneuvers, and countless calculations had led to this engagement. Yet no training could replicate the sensation of a massive, slow-moving tank becoming something far quicker than expected. Inside the turret, the gunner prepared. Hands hovered over the sight and cranks, adjusting for range and angle. The rusted gear, unremarkable to anyone outside the crew, allowed a sudden responsiveness. The turret spun with an agility previously unimaginable, sweeping across the fields to catch the approaching Panther off guard. Seconds became eternity, every heartbeat counted. The crew's coordination was flawless. The commander called out target vectors, the loader supplied shells efficiently, and the gunner synchronized his instincts with the machine. A Panther emerged from cover, engines low and deliberate. Its crew, confident in the Churchill's reputed sluggishness, banked for a flank. They had calculated every degree of turret traverse, expecting to fire before the heavy British tank could respond. But the unexpected speed of the turret disrupted their assumptions. The gunner tracked the movement smoothly, leading the target with precision. The first shell struck the Panther's side, forcing the German crew to adjust, fire delayed, and rhythm broken. A momentary hesitation, fractions of a second, shifted the balance in the Churchill's favor. The hedgerows amplified the effect. Visibility was limited, and concealment allowed the Panther to approach rapidly. But the Churchill, turning faster than anyone anticipated, could engage multiple angles in quick succession. The crew's anticipation of standard turret delay, now inverted, became a tactical advantage. The rusted gear, a product of wear and chance, created a mechanical responsiveness that was otherwise impossible. The tank moved, at least in reaction, faster than design specifications allowed, a silent anomaly shaping the course of the engagement. German crews scrambled to adapt. Their targeting algorithms, honed for predictable British tanks, failed to account for this anomaly. Each shell they fired arrived late, misaligned, or blocked by subtle adjustments from the Churchill. The British crew exploited every hesitation, every adjustment in enemy strategy. Shots landed precisely where predicted. The heavy 75mm gun, fired with efficiency born of instinct and mechanical advantage, began dictating the battlefield rather than reacting to it. Inside the tank, tension was acute but controlled. Every sound, the clink of shells, the roar of engines, the scrape of treads, was amplified in consciousness. The crew moved as a single organism. The turret, unusually responsive, allowed rapid tracking across the horizon, countering sudden enemy maneuvers. The effect was not just speed, it was synchronization. The mechanical anomaly, combined with human skill and battlefield awareness, created a rhythm the enemy could not anticipate. A second Panther appeared, attempting to flank from a narrow lane. The gunner, anticipating the path, rotated the turret faster than he had ever thought possible. The shell struck before the Panther crew had fully aligned their gun. German officers, trained to exploit the Churchill's sluggish traverse, were confronted with an unpredictable defensive system. The battlefield, chaotic and unyielding, became a canvas on which a small mechanical flaw painted unexpected advantage. Every rotation, every shot, reinforced the anomaly. The crew realized instinctively that the Churchill's responsiveness could be exploited repeatedly. The psychological impact on the German crews was immediate. Hesitation replaced confidence, uncertainty replaced routine. The Churchill's unexpected speed became a variable that could not be calculated, a mechanical surprise in the theater of war. The rusted gear, previously an object of complaint, had turned the tank into a responsive instrument of precise, reactive fire. Mud, hedgerows, and smoke combined to heighten the drama. The tank's massive weight did not impede the unusual agility, and the crew moved in perfect harmony with the anomaly. Every observation, every adjustment, fed into the rhythm of engagement. The first hits, disrupting enemy coordination, set the stage for follow-up strikes. The combination of terrain, mechanical accident, and human judgment created a moment where machine and crew functioned as one. By the end of the initial engagement, both sides recognized the shift. Panthers that had once expected dominance now moved with caution. The Churchill, through a mixture of skill and unforeseen mechanical advantage, had forced the Germans to reconsider strategy. The engagement demonstrated that minor, overlooked details, a rusted gear, a momentary slip of friction, could become decisive under the pressure of battle. It was not merely a battle of tanks, it was a confrontation between expectation and adaptation, theory and reality. The fog of Normandy seemed heavier now, but inside the Churchill, the crew operated with clarity. Each movement, each rotation of the turret, carried the weight of anticipation and the potential of deadly precision. The rusted gear, mundane and overlooked, had transformed the tank into a faster, more agile instrument than its designers had intended. The first strikes had been made, the battlefield's rhythm had shifted. In that suspended moment, the crew sensed the convergence of chance, skill and mechanical anomaly, a combination that would define the outcome of the skirmish before it had fully begun. The second Panther adjusted its approach, engines growling through the narrow lane. It expected a slow response, a ponderous turret that could be outmaneuvered with ease. But the Churchill's crew, attuned to the subtle change in gear resistance, reacted instantly. The turret rotated with a speed and precision that defied expectations. Each degree of motion was anticipated, each target tracked seamlessly. The gunner led the enemy's movement almost instinctively, firing just ahead of the Panther's course. Shells struck before the German crew could correct, shattering their rhythm and forcing a retreat into cover. The terrain amplified the effect. Hedgerows and ditches limited maneuvering, confining the Panthers to predictable lines of movement. Where the enemy had assumed an advantage, the Churchill exploited the narrow angles with uncanny efficiency. The rusted turret gear, an accidental modification of metal and friction, allowed the heavy turret to pivot faster than any Panther crew believed possible. In those moments, seconds became eternity. The battlefield shifted in subtle but critical ways. Every rapid rotation, every precisely timed shot, reinforced the disparity between expectation and reality. Inside the tank, tension was thick but controlled. The crew operated as a single organism. The commander issued concise instructions, the loader fed shells without hesitation, and the gunner followed instinct and mechanical feedback. The anomaly in the turret's gear became part of the rhythm of engagement. It was no longer a flaw. It was a tactical instrument, invisible but decisive. The Panther crews faced an adversary that defied the assumptions upon which their tactics had been built. The first shots had already disrupted German coordination. Commanders struggled to adjust firing sequences, anticipating delay that never came. The Churchill's rapid tracking forced them into split-second decisions, mistakes magnified by terrain and visibility. The psychological impact was immediate. Confidence gave way to caution, aggression tempered by uncertainty. A single mechanical imperfection, unrecognized by engineers and overlooked by mechanics, now dictated the tempo of battle. The Churchill's newfound responsiveness allowed it to engage multiple targets in quick succession. Where previously a slow turret would have delayed tracking and firing, the crew could now rotate, aim, and fire before the enemy fully realized their vulnerability. Each hit, each evasive response from the Panthers, reinforced the unpredictability of the encounter. In a battlefield dominated by speed and firepower, an overlooked gear had created a variable neither side could calculate. Smoke, mud, and the scent of spent propellant filled the air. The hedgerows obscured movement, forcing the Panthers to emerge from cover piecemeal. The Churchill, turning faster than any German expected, tracked each segment efficiently. Shells landed with precision, disrupting advance formations. The effect was cumulative. One Panther was forced back, another hesitated, and the remainder recalibrated under the pressure of sudden, unexpected fire. The rusted gear had turned a tank designed for slow resilience into a vessel of rapid, reactive power. German crews attempted to counter, banking their tanks to exploit standard assumptions of turret lag. But every attempt was met with the same anomaly. The turret rotated with unexpected speed, tracking their movement accurately. Shots misaligned, timing disrupted, formations broken. Tactical advantage had shifted in a matter of seconds, determined not by firepower or armor but by an unplanned mechanical advantage and human skill. The Panthers had entered a trap they could not see, operating on assumptions that no longer held. The crew inside the Churchill became aware of their advantage. They adapted to it instinctively, modifying engagement angles and timing. The tank moved, in every interaction, faster than its historical design had intended. The rusted gear, once a source of complaint and frustration, had become a silent ally. The combination of mechanical anomaly, crew proficiency, and environmental mastery transformed a routine skirmish into a tactical demonstration of human and machine synergy. The engagement continued with relentless intensity. Panthers attempted to flank, exploiting perceived sluggishness, but each maneuver was anticipated and countered. Shells struck at intervals, disrupting movement, forcing retreats, and creating space for infantry support. The Churchill, heavy yet responsive, dominated the encounter in a way that had previously seemed impossible. The battlefield, constrained by hedgerows and lanes, became a proving ground for unintentional innovation. As the last Panther withdrew, engines smoldering from repeated hits, the crew realized the full impact of the anomaly. A single, rusted gear had transformed the tank's capabilities. What mechanics had considered a flaw had turned into a tactical multiplier. The enemy had underestimated the potential for chance, human insight, and mechanical deviation to converge into decisive advantage. In that moment, the Churchill was not just a tank, it was a manifestation of unpredictability, precision, and adaptability on the battlefield. By the end of the encounter, both sides understood that the normal rules no longer applied. The Panthers had been forced into defensive postures, hesitation replacing aggression. The Churchill had gained the upper hand not through new weapons or design changes, but through an overlooked mechanical quirk and the seamless skill of its crew. In Normandy's muddy lanes and hedgerows, a subtle, rusted turret gear had rewritten the expectations of combat, proving that even the smallest, most overlooked elements could determine the outcome of battle. The battlefield settled into an uneasy quiet. Smoke hung in the bocage, curling around hedgerows and sunken lanes. The Churchills, battered but intact, held their positions. The Panthers, forced back, assessed damage and regrouped. For the Allied crews, the encounter was a mixture of relief and exhilaration. They had survived what should have been a perilous engagement, their tank responding with a speed that seemed almost impossible. The rusted turret gear, unnoticed by officers and engineers, had played a decisive role. Inside the Churchill, the crew absorbed the impact of their unexpected advantage. The commander reviewed the sequence of events, noting how the gunner had tracked targets with exceptional precision. Every shell fired had connected at a critical moment, each Panther disrupted before it could capitalize on the Churchill's standard sluggishness. For the loader, the rapid rotation meant adjusting supply and timing, yet the workflow remained fluid, almost effortless. They began to recognize a pattern. The tank, in this engagement, had transcended its usual limitations. Word of the engagement spread quickly through the unit. Fellow crews shared astonished glances and whispered observations about the Churchill's performance. Reports filed after the encounter noted unusual responsiveness, faster than previously recorded during drills. Officers began reviewing maintenance logs, curious but unaware that the anomaly stemmed from the rusted gear, a minor corrosion considered negligible in normal operations. The tank's behavior challenged preconceptions, forcing even experienced commanders to reconsider assumptions about mechanical limitations. German crews, meanwhile, recorded their own frustration. They had anticipated slow turret traverse, using it to plan flanking maneuvers and rapid strikes. Yet their calculations had failed. The Panther's engagement reports noted unexpected tracking speed and rapid counterfire, terms unusual in standardized logs. Hesitation replaced initiative. Morale, subtly shaken, highlighted the psychological impact of encountering an enemy whose capabilities defied expectation. A minor mechanical quirk had created not only a tactical advantage but a disruption in enemy confidence. Allied infantry accompanying the tanks observed the difference immediately. Where prior advances required careful positioning to compensate for slow turret rotation, infantry now noticed the ability to suppress threats more effectively. The Churchill could engage multiple points simultaneously, responding faster than the enemy anticipated. Coordination between tank and infantry improved as the anomaly became evident in practice. The battlefield dynamic shifted. One vehicle, through a chance mechanical variation, influenced the operations of both Allied and German forces. The crew, now aware of the anomaly, tested its limits in subsequent maneuvers. Each rotation, each adjustment, revealed subtle differences in responsiveness. What had been an unnoticed flaw became a tool of tactical experimentation. Commanders and gunners began to refine their approach, integrating the unexpected agility into decision-making. The tank's performance, previously limited by design, now expanded the boundaries of what was considered operationally feasible. Field maintenance teams, initially unaware of the cause, inspected the turret with renewed scrutiny. They noted the corrosion along the main gear but found no immediate damage. It was, in conventional terms, a flaw to correct. Yet in the hands of skilled operators, it had produced a speed advantage beyond design expectations. This dissonance between mechanical assessment and battlefield outcome highlighted the complexity of armored warfare. performance could not always be predicted by specifications alone. By nightfall, the engagement had left its mark. The Churchills remained operational, the crew fatigued but intact, and the Panthers withdrawn to regroup. Reports circulated describing the rapid turret response, though the true cause remained unnoticed outside the immediate crew. The rusted gear, inconspicuous and mundane, had altered the outcome of a skirmish, demonstrating that chance and human adaptation could override established engineering assumptions. In the quiet aftermath, the crew reflected on what had transpired. What had begun as a routine patrol, a standard encounter with German armor, had transformed into a demonstration of unexpected advantage. The mechanical quirk, combined with human skill and situational awareness, had rewritten the parameters of engagement. Normandy's hedgerows bore witness not to a new design or weapon, but to the interplay of chance, ingenuity, and the seamless coordination of men and machine. The engagement was over, but its implications would resonate long after the smoke cleared. The following days brought routine operations, but the memory of the engagement lingered. Officers noted faster response times in the affected Churchill during drills and patrols, though none could initially pinpoint the cause. The rusted gear, still present in the turret mechanism, remained inconspicuous to engineers and supervisors. Yet its impact had been undeniable. Crews began to adjust tactics subtly, exploiting the newfound rotation speed to position their tank more aggressively, to respond faster to ambushes, and to suppress enemy movement more effectively. Reports from adjacent units recorded similar encounters, with crews describing unusual responsiveness. Some commanders credited superior skill or training, unaware that a mechanical anomaly, accidental and minor, had played a decisive role. The experience highlighted an enduring truth of combat. Battlefield outcomes depended not solely on design or doctrine but on the interplay of human ingenuity, mechanical nuance, and environmental factors. A single rusted gear had created a tactical ripple, influencing decisions far beyond its immediate presence. German forces remained puzzled. Intelligence and after-action reports acknowledged that Churchill tanks had performed better than expected in rapid target engagement. Panthers, once confident in their ability to outmaneuver the heavier British vehicles, faced unexpected resistance. Hesitation replaced aggression, and previously successful flanking maneuvers were reconsidered. Commanders began factoring in unpredictable behavior, a subtle shift in strategy prompted by what would otherwise have been considered routine mechanical imperfection. Within the unit, crews began to share knowledge about subtle mechanical behaviors. How a slightly worn gear could improve rotation, how minor irregularities could be anticipated and exploited. This informal exchange of insight became part of operational learning, blending experience, instinct, and improvisation. Normandy's challenging terrain demanded adaptability, and the rusted turret gear became a case study in the power of recognizing and utilizing unforeseen advantages. Field workshops remained focused on maintenance, unaware that one overlooked component had dramatically influenced battlefield outcomes. Spare parts were scarce, rust treated as a liability, and manuals continued to dictate strict lubrication and replacement schedules. Yet, for the crew who had experienced it firsthand, the anomaly was now tactical knowledge. They learned to manipulate the tank's quirks, using timing, coordination, and understanding of mechanical tolerances to gain advantage over superior enemy armor. The effect extended to training and doctrine. While no formal changes were made, the incident reinforced the importance of familiarity with one's equipment. Commanders emphasized observation and anticipation, teaching crews to notice subtle differences in machine behavior that could alter engagement dynamics. The Normandy battles demonstrated that adaptability, awareness, and exploitation of minor irregularities could determine the outcome of skirmishes, sometimes more decisively than firepower alone. In practical terms, the Churchill had gained a temporary but meaningful edge. A tank designed for endurance now performed with unexpected agility, challenging assumptions about speed and responsiveness. The rusted gear, mundane and overlooked, had rewritten the operational capabilities of a single unit, influencing both tactical outcomes and human perception of what was possible. The battlefield had tested the convergence of design, chance, and human skill, and the results were unmistakable. Psychologically, the anomaly reinforced confidence among the crew. Where prior engagements had relied heavily on planning and caution, the ability to rotate the turret faster allowed them to act decisively in moments of crisis. Enemy hesitation was magnified by the unexpected response of the tank, providing further advantage. The interplay between mechanical nuance and human awareness became a defining factor in engagements, highlighting the importance of adaptability in unpredictable conditions. In the aftermath, Normandy's fields and hedgerows bore witness not only to destruction but also to ingenuity, accidental or otherwise. The rusted gear, a minor component in the grand machinery of war, had transformed perception and performance. It demonstrated that small, overlooked details could ripple outward, influencing decisions, strategy, and morale. History, it seemed, was shaped as much by chance and observation as by deliberate design. The engagement ended, but its lessons persisted. The Churchill, through an overlooked mechanical quirk and the skill of its crew, had outperformed expectation. Minor imperfections had become decisive advantages. In the interplay between machine, human, and battlefield, the seemingly inconsequential had altered outcomes. The rusted turret gear, once a source of frustration, had quietly rewritten the rules of engagement for those who recognized its hidden potential. In the quiet aftermath of Normandy, the rusted turret gear remained inconspicuous, a minor imperfection hidden within the vast machinery of war. Yet its impact had been profound. What had begun as a mundane problem, a corrosion overlooked by mechanics, had become a decisive factor in battle. The incident illustrated that history is not shaped solely by grand designs or powerful weapons but also by small, often unnoticed variables, converging at critical moments to alter outcomes. Human skill and mechanical nuance proved inseparable. The Churchill crew, attuned to their machine and environment, had transformed what could have been a limitation into a tactical advantage. Observation, anticipation, and instinct allowed them to exploit a flaw in the machinery that no manual or engineer had intended. The rusted gear became a symbol of adaptability, demonstrating that understanding the subtleties of one's tools could redefine possibility on the battlefield. Technology, in war, is often measured by design specifications, speed, and firepower. Yet this engagement revealed the unpredictable interplay between human insight and machine behavior. A minor mechanical anomaly, combined with instinctive skill, produced results surpassing design expectations. The Churchill, a tank built for endurance, moved with agility, disrupting enemy assumptions and reshaping the flow of combat. In this convergence of chance and competence, innovation appeared where none had been deliberately sought. The episode also serves as a reminder of the psychological dimension of warfare. German crews, accustomed to exploiting expected limitations, found themselves reacting to a tank that defied prediction. Confidence faltered, hesitation set in, and tactical advantage shifted. It underscores the profound influence of perception and uncertainty in combat, where even a single overlooked gear can ripple across strategy, morale, and outcome. Ultimately, Normandy's hedgerows bore witness to more than battle. They bore witness to ingenuity, adaptation, and the unforeseen consequences of human and mechanical interaction. The rusted turret gear, humble and overlooked, became a testament to the unpredictable nature of war. Small imperfections, chance, and skill can converge to create decisive outcomes. In the interplay of man, machine, and battlefield, history often pivots on the most unlikely elements, proving that even a minor flaw can become a defining advantage.